nothing against kids. Nothing against kids. This just happens to be a recurring theme this year.
Seriously, man.
All right, let me reintroduce to you the director of Kill List, Mr. Ben Wheatley. And also, can we get producer Andy Stark up on stage too? Andy, come on. Reluctant Andy, come on, Andy.
Yeah, I don't want to get the blame for this, man.
I'm not taking the blame for this alone. Here he comes, sloping towards Bethlehem. Come on.
So, we've seen over the years a lot of different occult films. Obviously, Wicker Man, Race with the Devil, Devil's Reign. What inspired you to make this film, and go to this genre?
After doing Down Terrace, I wanted to make, and Down Terrace had been a crime film, but through this kind of lens of kind of socio-realist, kind of Alan Clarke-y kind of world. And I wanted to make a horror film in the same vein. And I sat down and I thought about the things that scared me shitless, and I made a list of them. And one of the things was a recurring dream I had as a kid, which was basically what happens in this with the cult. And I thought, you know, if it scared me as a child and continued to scare me, then it would probably strike a chord with an audience. So that's why we got to that.
And you've got like a really good, I mean, this is obvious, you should go back and you should try and find Down Terrace, because you've got the same kind of real control and relationship with your actors, where it's a very kind of earthy kitchen sink performances that you get out of them. Can you talk about the two lead actors and how you work with them?
Basically everybody in the film I'd worked with before, and I wrote the parts with Amy Jump, my co-writer and wife, specifically for those actors. So it wasn't in the sense that there's a normal casting process where you'd write a script and try and find people who'd fit the characters. We knew exactly who we wanted. And when we went to the finances, we made a short, did a day's shoot of the dinner party scene and showed them that and said, these are the people that we want in. We didn't show them anybody else. And I think that's the route to getting really realistic performances, is because they're based around kind of character facets of the real actors, the parts are, rather than, so they don't have to act as much.
And what other work have they done? I mean, they're actually kind of more comedic actors.
No, I mean, Neil Maskell, who plays Jay, has been in lots of kind of football violence and British crime films. Yana Björn, who plays Shell, has been in The Descent and kind of Lesbian Vampire Killers and Doomsday and all those kinds of movies. And I kind of imagined them as if they'd been in the 60s, she would have been like a Hammer actress. And Neil would have probably been in the background performance and villain and all those kinds of movies. So it's a kind of folding over of the genres together through casting a little bit.
Andy, come on stage. Come on, I'm going to do this to you. Producer Andy Stark. And I'm bringing him on stage because...
I'm just going to stand behind Ben.
Because Andy and his partner Pete Toombs are responsible for one of the best DVD labels, Mondo Macabro, which releases weird, bizarre cinema from around the world. So how did the two of you meet? Like you served as producer on Down Terrace as well. How did you guys get together?
Weirdly, we've known each other for about 20 years, but we've been wise enough never to work with each other for a long time. So.
Andy was the only adult we ever knew when we were making films at the start. He was the only person who could get, these days it's like, it's just embarrassing that you can get an edit suite on your laptop, but back in the day, it was quite hard, and he was the only person who had the key to an edit suite, so you had to be his friend.
It's that shower.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes.
First of all, I want to say I now get why Mark Kermode says you really appreciated the movie without actually enjoying it. But I will say, one thing I was wondering is the actors themselves, how much freedom did they have to improv around some of the scenes? They seem to be very loose and real at times.
The question is how much freedom do the actors have to, with the performance, to kind of improvise?
Kind of working, I worked on a Mando Iannucci show called Time Trumpet, and I followed the kind of a lot of the techniques he uses on the thick of it, and one of them that he uses, which is brilliant, is that you do a take on the script, you do several takes on the script, then you let them paraphrase off the script, so you don't have the normal problems that comes with improvisation, which is just some wild fucking formless nonsense that comes out of people's mouths after time. You just take the meaning of the actual script and you allow them to put it back into their own words, and you get the urgency of improvised dialogue, but with the meaning of scripted dialogue. And we did that on every scene. So we'd go one take on, one take off, one take on, one take off. And then sometimes we ran the scenes in and ran the scenes out into improvisation. So some things like the dinner party at the start were filmed in real time. So they ate the food, they lived that moment all the way through until they hit like the scripted bits of it. And then we used the best bits out of the beginning of the improvisation. So Smiley kind of going on about, I'll bless this and I'll do it in Irish, it's improvisation, but then the arse end of the scene is actually quite tightly scripted. So yeah, we let them have their head a lot, and there was a lot of improvisation up to the point where we had a really good time on set, everyone was laughing, and when the cast came to see the first cut of the movie, they were really, really upset because they thought they'd been in a comedy. And there was quite a bit of explaining to do to them. But of course, they'd read the script, so what the fuck they were thinking about it.
Yes?
Michael Smiley was inspired casting, but what was it that you'd worked with, came on before that got him involved?
Michael Smiley, the casting, what did you work with him before to get you to work with him?
I worked with Smiley on a sketch show called Wrong Door, and basically it was Rob Hill, who was in Down Terrace, who cast him, who's also the editor on this, and we needed someone who looked like a pirate, and he said, why don't you use that guy from he said, why don't you use that guy from Space who plays Tyres? And I was like, I don't know, I've not seen that bit of Space, but went back and looked at him. We got Smiley in and instantly knew he was a fantastic actor, because we gave him loads of really stupid piratey dialogue and he did it really, really well. And he held his own against Brian Blessed, which is always a tricky thing to do. So, and from that point on, basically this show, Wrong Door, had an enormous cast. I met a lot, so I met Mianna Björing and Neil Maskell on that show as well. And it was basically just, I was basically casting through that show for the next 5 or 6 years of work, so I'd always get back to that and see who I'd used on that show and kind of use them again.
Yes, and they're right there.
Thanks very much. Feel pretty beat up after that. Mr. Wheatley, any relationship to Dennis? And if so or not, done much reading and stuff?
The question was, are you related to the occult novelist Dennis Wheatley? And if not, have you ever read his stuff?
No, I'm afraid so.
Dennis Wheatley wrote a novel called